Welcome to episode 17 of Duties of the Heart, and in this episode we are up to the 5th chapter of the Gate of Reflection. And in this episode, this chapter is going to be split up, I think, into 3 episodes. It's quite a long chapter, but it's a fascinating chapter. It deals with meditations or reflections upon the human body and the kind of from birth to adulthood and the various things that we should appreciate that normally we don't really take much notice or give much thought to various processes that go on in the human body that allow us to live, allow us to be born and grow up. And this is a very fascinating chapter. So let's begin. Rabbi Bachya says, which of these kinds of marks of wisdom is most accessible to us, such that our obligation to investigate it is correspondingly greater? Although it is imperative and obligatory to reflect on all of them, the most accessible and apparent kind is the mark of wisdom manifest in the human species, the microcosm, the ultimate reason for the existence of the cosmos. It is our obligation to study the beginning of a human being, his early development, the formation of his body, the structuring of its members, the basic functions of each one, and why it was necessary to make him in the form in which he is fashioned. Next, we should study the things that are beneficial to man, each of his qualities, the faculties of his soul, the light of his intellect, the essential and accidental things in him, his desires and ultimate purpose. When we arrive at an understanding of these aspects of man, much of the mystery of this world will be deciphered, for man resembles the world. One of the wise men has already remarked that philosophy is man's knowledge of himself, that is, his knowledge of the aspects of man we have mentioned, so that from the evidence of divine wisdom displayed in himself, he may come to recognize the Creator, may he be exalted. As it is written, and he quotes from Job 19 verse 26, "From my own flesh I will see God." Since this is the case, we should, from all that we have mentioned concerning man, at least touch briefly upon each subject, in order to spur the neglectful person from the awareness of what he must always remember. Then, this will then motivate him to inquire into matters which I have not mentioned. And then, when he is aware of all the love and kindness which the Creator has showered upon him, he will feel humbled before him and exceedingly grateful to him. As King David, peace be upon him, said, and he quotes from Tehillim, "I praise you, for I am made awesomely and wondrously. Your works are amazing, I know this well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was fashioned in a hidden place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. The days on which all my parts were yet to be fashioned were written in your book. Not one of them yet existed." Now, Rabbi Bachya is going to discuss the origin and existence of man. So he continues, what you should first do is consider the origin of man and the beginning of his existence. You will then see that the first grace which God bestows upon man is that he is brought into existence from non-existence. The fundamental elements pass into plant form, which becomes food and changes into semen and blood. This is transformed into animal life, which finally assumes the form of a human being, a living, speaking and mortal being who goes through changes and transformations and is affected by various factors and ever-changing conditions which are fully integrated and well coordinated. So Rabbi Bachya is actually going from the 4 elements as he deemed them, the 4 elements that turn into food, that turn into food for human beings, and that in turn can be transformed into a new human life. And then he continues to discuss how the body is composed of incompatible elements. So he continues, after you have contemplated this and noticed evidence of the Creator's goodness, wisdom, and power on a grand scale, observe and reflect upon the principal components of a human being's discernible makeup, namely his body and soul. You will see that man's body is composed of incompatible elements and dissimilar natures, which the Creator, may he be exalted, combined with his power, bound together in his wisdom, and formed into a hearty body, uniform in its appearance, but diverse in its constitution. The Creator then joined to this body a spiritual ethereal element, similar to the spirituality of the higher beings. This element is man's soul, which God bound to the body by means adapted to both of these extremes. These means are the vital soul, natural heat, the blood, veins, nerves, and arteries. To preserve them and shield them from injury, God provided means of protection: flesh, bones, muscles, skin, hair, and nails, which serve like shields and coverings to ward off injuries. So it's very true. We sometimes, forget the actual constituency of our bodies. Our nerves and the shields around our nervous system, our nails, our skin, our amazingly waterproof skin. It's a real wonder. And now Rabbi Bachya is going to continue describing God's kindness to the unborn and the miracle of birth. So he continues, then think of the kindness shown by the Creator in the care which he provides for man. For the first stage of a human being's existence, the Creator furnishes him with his mother's womb as his cradle, so that he be in a safe place and a secure haven, where no hand can reach him, where heat or cold does not affect him. In this protected and sheltered environment, with his food provided for him, he continues to develop and becomes capable of moving and turning. He receives his nourishment without effort or exertion. It is provided for him in utero, where artificial substitution for this process is utterly impossible. As his body grows, his food supply increases until he reaches full term. He then leaves his mother's womb through a narrow passage, without any planning or initiative on his part, but solely by the power of the wise, merciful, and kind one, who shows compassion for his creatures. As he said to Job about wild animals, do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Can you anticipate the time of a deer's calving? Do you count the months they carry their young, and thus determine the time of their delivery? The next subject he's going to reflect upon are God's wonders in providing for the nursing child. So he continues, when the infant comes into the world, his senses are underdeveloped, except for his sense of touch and taste. The Creator, may he be magnified, provides him his food from his mother's breasts. The blood which served to nourish him in his mother's womb is converted into her breasts into milk, pleasant and sweet, flowing like a gushing spring whenever needed. The milk is not so abundant as to become burdensome to the mother and flow without suction, nor so scarce as to tire the child when taking it from the breast. One of God's graces in this regard is that he made the opening of the nipple like the eye of a needle, not so wide that the milk would flow without suction or cause the infant to choke while being nursed, nor so narrow that the infant would have to exert himself in drawing its nourishment. And now Rabbi Bachya is going to discuss God's kindness to the child in endearing him to his parents. He continues, the infant's body grows stronger, and he is able to distinguish sights and sounds. God fills the hearts of the parents with kindness, love and compassion for the child, so that raising him is not a burden to them, so that they are more sensitive to the child's needs for food and drink than to their own needs, and so that all the trouble and hard work that go into raising him, they must bathe him and dress him and the like, gently care for him and protect him from all harm, even against his will, are made easier for them. When he moves from infancy, into childhood. The parents do not tire of him or become angry at his many wants and scant appreciation for all they put up with in caring and providing for him. On the contrary, their tender concern for him increases until he reaches adolescence. By then he has learned to speak in an orderly and logical fashion. His physical senses and mental faculties have matured, and he can acquire wisdom and knowledge. With his senses, he can distinguish between different physical phenomena, and with his mental faculties, he can discriminate between different intellectual matters. As King Solomon said in Proverbs 2 verse 6, "For it is God who grants wisdom. From his mouth came knowledge and insights." And now Rabbi Bachya is going to discuss the wonders and kindness of God in childhood. So he continues, "One of man's many blessings is that as a child he is not a thinker and is unable to distinguish from good from bad. For if his mind and his powers of perception were fully matured while he was growing up, and he was aware of the advantage other people had over him in their ability to manage for themselves, move freely and keep clean, and he realized that his own situation was quite the opposite in all of these respects, he would die of anxiety and sorrow. What is remarkable is that crying is beneficial to infants. According to expert physicians, there is a humor or an elemental fluid in an infant's brain, which, if allowed to remain there, would have harmful effects. Crying dissolves this humor and releases it from the brain, and the infants are saved from its injurious effects. Although perhaps this can be debated today, this harmful humor or elemental fluid, the one thing for sure, that a baby, when it cries, it's beneficial for it. It'll often cry itself to sleep, and it is a good source to rid itself of its own anxiety and calm itself down. Perhaps, dopamine is released in its brain. And Rabbi Bachya continues, "One of the Creator's great kindnesses to man is that his baby teeth are replaced gradually, one after the other, so that he not be prevented from eating whilst the new teeth grow in to replace the older ones. He is exposed to sickness and painful accidents so that he understands the world, and so that its true nature not remain hidden from him, lest he be lulled into a false sense of security, be dominated by his baser instincts, and become like an unintelligent and senseless beast. As it is written in Psalms 32 verse 9, don't be like a horse or a mule without understanding." Now, Rabbi Bachya is going to discuss wonders and wisdom of God manifest in the human body. So we're going to take a leap from being an infant or a child to the general performance of the limbs. So he continues, "One should then contemplate and examine the uses of the members of the body and the various ways in which each one of them contributes to man's welfare. The hands were created to give and take, the feet to walk, the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the nose to smell, the tongue to speak, the mouth to eat, the teeth to chew, and the stomach to digest, the liver to purify the food, the tubes for removing superfluities, the bowels and bladder for temporary retention, and the heart is the reservoir of natural heat and the wellspring of life. The brain is the seat of the spiritual faculties and the source of sensation and the nerves. The womb preserves and develops the seed, and so it is with the rest of the members of the body. Their hidden benefits are even greater than those which are known to us. Similarly, whoever studies the natural internal functions of the body, the digestion process and the distribution of nutrients to each of the body's parts, will behold signs of wisdom which will inspire him to thank and praise his Creator. As David of blessed memory said, "All my bones will say, God, who is like you?" Food is conveyed to the stomach in a tube, that is absolutely straight without bend or twist. This tube is called the esophagus. The stomach then grinds the food more thoroughly than the teeth did initially, and sends it to the liver through fine veins which connect these two organs. The veins serve as a filter for the food, to prevent anything coarse from reaching the liver. The liver converts the food into blood, which it distributes throughout the body, sending it to all the other parts through channels, much like water pipes, prepared for this purpose. The waste substances that are left are eliminated through ducts made especially for this purpose. That which is of the green bile goes to the gallbladder, that which is of the black bile goes to the spleen. Other humours and juices are sent to the lungs. The refuse of the blood goes to the bladder. Meditate, my brother, on the Creator's wisdom in structuring your body, how He placed these organs in their proper places to receive the waste substances, so that they're not spread throughout the body and make it ill. So Rabbi Bachya is perhaps modern medicine has describes the processes in a better way, but essentially he is absolutely correct in what he's saying, or generally what he's saying. And he continues, then consider the formation of the vocal cords and the instruments of speech. The larynx is hollow in order to produce the voice. The tongue, lips and teeth are for the enunciation of consonants and vowels. These organs have other uses too. The air enters the lungs through the larynx and trachea. The tongue is for tasting and is helpful also for swallowing food and drink. The teeth are for chewing. The lips enable one to retain liquids in the mouth and swallow the quantity desired in a controlled fashion. The other members also have uses. Some are known to us, while others are unknown. Then, my brother, contemplate the four bodily faculties with their respective functions. Number 1, the receptive faculty, by which food is received and led into the stomach. Number 2, the faculty of retention, by which food is retained in the stomach until nature has done her work. Number 3, the digestive faculty, which digests the food, extracts the finer elements, separates them from the useless waste, and distributes them to all parts of the body. And number 4, the expelling faculty, which expels the remaining waste after the digestive processes have taken from the food all that the body needs. Observe how these faculties have been assigned to the body to attend to its well-being. It is just like a king's court where there are servants and officers appointed over the royal household. One officer is responsible for procuring the supplies needed by the servants and their delivery to the steward. A second officer is in charge of receiving the delivery of the first and storing the supplies inside the house until they are prepared and rendered fit for use. A third officer is charged with preparing the stores, rendering them fit for use, and distributing them amongst the servants. The task of a fourth officer is to sweep away any refuse or dirt and remove them from the house. So I think we're going to stop there, as the next section discusses the faculties of the soul. But I think that's a fitting place to stop, and it is, well, definitely food for thought. Over when we meditate over our bodies, the thousands and thousands of processes that are going on in our body. You know, every time we take a morsel of food, the processes that go on in our body are incredible. And just taking a moment to reflect upon these gives us an appreciation and a gratitude. Like I've said in previous episodes, you know, once we perhaps get ill, we sometimes pine for our health. And we feel gratitude only when we're ill. But Rabbi Bachya is urging us to be grateful when our bodies are working well, and reflect on the incredible things that are going on inside your body that work like clockwork, that rarely go wrong in maintaining our good health. And I look forward to the next episode.